Hey, did you see the My Little Pony movie?
No? Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's in theaters.
It just came out?
It just came out.
Why have I not seen, like, anything? Like, I don't see weirdos being all over YouTube making their reviews of it. I don't see people on Twitter or Facebook.
This is because we're not friends with you-know-who anymore. Yeah, it it's in theaters right now. The My Little Pony the movie, distributed by Lionsgate. So far, it has a gross of $26 million, and it's starring Emily Blunt.
Wait, what? What? Who does she play? Is she one of the ponies? I thought they had like a whole voice cast.
She's one of the ponies. So
did they recast all the ones from the show?
So it stars Emily Blunt, Kristen Chenoweth, Michael Pena, Zoe Saldana, Liev Schreiber.
Why is Liev Schreiber in this? You got fucking Sabretooth involved?
Yeah.
Like, what? Why is Ray Donovan in the ponies?
And you have a Gamora, too.
I mean, that one I'm less surprised by. I mean, I feel like she enjoys being in goofy stuff like this.
Well, she's an avatar, so of course she would.
Yeah. Hold
on.
Really? That wasn't even a good hey-oh.
Hey-oh!
Hey-oh! You gotta put more emphasis on it.
Hey-oh!
Hey-oh! Let me look at the IMDb. Do they play like the ones from the show?
No, they introduce new ponies because I think I don't know what the plot's about, but I think they're going to some other place in the world of the ponies.
They're going on like a pony adventure?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, don't they do that like every episode? Why is this one special?
Why are you asking me? I haven't watched a single episode of this show ever. You should be asking...
I assumed you were a huge fan of it, okay?
Listen, you should be asking you-know-who.
Oh, yeah. That person.
So, in case you didn't notice, if you're listening to this podcast, we used to be friends with a very
it was pretty bad.
Unique, special kid. What?
It was pretty bad, not gonna lie.
What?
It's just all the memories.
And he was a brony, amongst other things.
Didn't you have like a 4-hour conversation with him once about why he thinks the sci-fi genre is terrible because there's not enough rounded edges?
Do you want me to pull this up? Because I texted it all the pictures to you so I can pull it up and read it off to the audience. Welcome to Subjects Change, everybody. We're gonna talk about how bronies and people who like anime have terrible taste.
Okay, well, one specific person that likes the anime and is a brony.
Did you know that I watched anime the other night?
Not all bronies are terrorists, okay?
I watched Fate Zero the other night, the first couple of episodes, because my roommate likes anime, so he kind of forced me to watch it.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, while you're reading that, I can prepare a few statements I have.
What are you going to be talking about?
I'm going to be talking about something very near and dear to my heart. Something that's a little bit controversial at the moment. We'll get to it. Don't worry. I think a couple of the listeners might be quite familiar with it, but we'll get there.
Okay, well, wait, I'll just pull up the conversation. I don't need to pull up the screenshots. I'll just pull up the actual conversation. That makes a lot more sense.
I imagine you haven't talked to this person much since this happened. Because why would you?
Yeah, so let's see. Basically, it all started because I sent him a trailer for Valerian, and he said, "Oh, it's interesting because it's a French comic book by a French director in a French movie studio, partially funded by Chinese." And I thought that's cool. I mean, he likes foreign stuff. He likes anime, so I thought he'd be interested in that. Then he says, "Doesn't seem all that different from American science fiction movies."
You see, I thought I understand your thought process is you're banking on the okay, maybe we can find some common ground because I'm talking about a thing I like that's not from America, and because he's a giant weeb and he thinks everything produced in America is automatically
He
garbage,
does.
maybe it'll work. But it's like, no, it specifically has to be Japan.
And then he says, maybe that's...
Ugh.
And I said, like, it looks like American science fiction movies. Maybe that's because it was inspired those. And he said it looks like The Fifth Element with Avatar. It says little Star Wars, and they show him some pictures from the comics and the movies, and he says, these kind of movies tend to be overcomplicated, which is what I not like complicated. And I say, how is Star Wars overcomplicated? It's a very simple story. And he says visually complicated. And then I said, unless you got a bad director who doesn't know how to frame a shot, that shouldn't be a problem, unless you're talking about Michael Bay. Fair enough, right? Does this make sense so far?
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
And then I said after that, the general use of buttons, obtrusive architecture, and costumes. It's unappealing in terms of its look. So there are too many buttons on the consoles.
Too many buttons.
I don't think that's the case anymore because they're moving into touchscreens and stuff.
Oh yeah, everything's a hologram
More
now,
of a
like
fluid
Minority
design,
Report.
so it doesn't really make any sense. So then I say, what should the future look like then? In terms of general looks, rounding things off more would be better looking. Squares and rectangles make up everything currently, even in round objects like the Death Star, which doesn't make any sense because it's a sphere.
I thought like every single thing in the Death Star had a rounded edge. Even the light fixtures were
The
like...
circle, or part of it, which our ancestors have used to no end, has just been more appealing in life. Such is seen in our current top buildings, with the prominent feature of the Taj Mahal being a smooth orb. So he says this is why he doesn't like science fiction movies, because there aren't enough circles.
There aren't enough circles, and there's too many buttons, and... Yeah, that's solid logic. Yeah, I would.
Yeah. So then
if
if
I knew there was a whole genre of movies that had 1, buttons, and 2, not enough circles, I would not fucking watch it. Like, what a horrible, horrible thing to have to subject your senses to.
It's so awful. Who would willingly expose themselves to that? So
Who
now
would watch a movie that doesn't have circles.
This is terrible. So obviously I'm calling him out on this.
You handle this better than I would, because I would just start yelling at him and going, "Hey, there's not a lot of sharp edges in My Little Pony, is there? Oh wait."
So now I'm
Lots
saying,
of sharp
with all
edges.
due respect, that has absolutely nothing to do with what makes a film enjoyable or not enjoyable. What makes that determination is the story and the characters. Now, the visuals may hamper or aid this, but that's not the determining factor. And now he's saying, I'm not saying that's the only reason. I was just saying that it was a big reason in my eyes. And I say, like, it's a pretty minor reason, because all visuals tend to tell the story. So if you want, it depends on the story you're telling and the method you're going out for. For example, a lot of circles or simple shapes might imply simplicity or sort of like childish sort of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It depends on the story you're telling. And I said, now he says, in addition to the aesthetic, everything seems far-fetched to me while being too close to reality.
Far-fetched
so it's
while
not
being too close to reality.
It's too far-fetched and it's too close to reality at once. So
what?
So it's not like MLP where it's just completely outlandish. It's in the uncanny valley, which doesn't make any sense.
But they travel to the human world in that show. My sister has like 3 movies where it happens.
Well, it's ridiculous.
The magic ponies hanging out with normal people should like break his own rule.
So
why does he watch that?
So now I say maybe that's the point. Maybe the idea of science fiction is to see a different version of our world that's similar but not identical. Maybe that's the idea of science fiction, to speculate on what may or may not happen in the future, where we can see something of our own world reflected in that, so we think about that. Where there's an idea behind that in a theme. And he says, well, I just personally dislike it. It's, along with outlandishing, there's a certain amount of flow. He says, like... What? So he says he doesn't like how we're not told how we get there. And I don't know, I mean, speaking in terms of Star Trek, you're told how we get to the future pretty clearly.
It's like the whole... How many science fiction universe... Okay, maybe Star Wars, because that's not set... I mean, those technically aren't even humans in that movie. But, like... I think almost every science fiction story I've read set in the future tries to explain how we got there, or at least makes allusions to it. It never just goes.
Nobody tells you everything, but they give you a hint or an idea. And maybe
sometimes they just flat out tell you everything.
Yeah.
Like Mass Effect. I can't even. Ugh. This is the reason I stopped talking to this person.
And then he went on just talking about how Star Wars is pretty bland in terms of the aesthetic, and to me it just feels like he's just grasping at straws to try and justify its ideas.
Oh boy, are you?
I just call things it.
All right. Well, in this particular case, there's some stuff surrounding that, but there's a lot of really obnoxious conversations I've had with this person where it's like, yeah, well, I'm playing video games right now, and which video game? Dead Space. Well, why do you like that game? I'm a big fan of science fiction and horror. Well, I don't understand why anyone would like horror, because like the whole point of it is to be uncomfortable, and I don't understand why someone would subjugate themselves to that. I was like, okay.
So you're just gonna have this to tell us what we should like?
Basically, this person just goes around telling you that if you don't like anime, like an exact brand of anime, a very specific, narrow kind of
and the only type of anime is the anime that's actually animated in Japan. I mean, if they outsource it to Korea, then it's not anime anymore.
And yeah.
And so Avatar: The Last Airbender isn't
basically
anime.
This is a friend of ours who has told us that if it's not Lucky Star, it's garbage. Like if there's conflict in the plot, because like there's slice of life shows where it's just day to day goofing around, nothing really like too bad happens. If there's any kind of like long term sort of problem or like plot momentum, like we have to solve something. Then well, why would I want to watch that? Conflict, that's bad. This is a person who I've had many long conversations with about stories and why they need to have conflict and villains in order to work.
Well, you don't need villains so much as you need conflict.
Well, the villain doesn't necessarily need to even be a person. It can be a thing. It can be an event. It can be a scenario.
Maybe it's man versus himself.
Yeah, exactly.
And even in slice of life stories, there needs to be some conflict, even if it's just. Even if
it's like something really lame, like, oh no, I want to ask this person to the dance, but I'm nervous. Uh-oh, what do I do? Like, that's conflict. That's better than nothing. I don't know.
There has to be conflict in the story, even if you don't really recognize it as conflict, then there's always going to be some sort of problem.
I mean, there's romantic comedies where it's just like these two picturesque, happy white people meet each other, and then they have a really great time in New York, and then walk around at night telling stories. And then I think they have sex, or they play in the snow, or something.
They always have the breakup in the last minute, coming back together.
Yeah. They break up over something really silly,
stories realize
and then one of them has to run somewhere to get the other one back. Romantic comedies are like almost as formulaic as Marvel movies.
Listen, I have a special. Can I have my rant about this?
About romantic comedies?
Yes. I have a special hatred towards romantic comedies because of my uncle. So my uncle and my aunt are, they're older people.
Yeah.
They're easily I think he's got his 80th birthday coming up in whatchamacallits,
couple of weeks.
In January. So
right.
They're older, and they don't like. This is a thing that they share with the other guys, that they don't like conflict. Especially my uncle. My aunt likes it a little bit more than he does, but she's still a little bit against it. So they don't like X-Men movies or Basically, any action movie or anything, except for romantic comedies.
Happens. Yeah.
Anything except for romantic comedies. And I feel like my uncle's favorite movie is The Devil Wears Prada. To be fair, it's a good movie, but every time we go and visit my uncle and my aunt, we almost always, without fail, watch The Devil Wears Prada because he likes it so much. And it's annoying because whenever we go and visit my aunt, we always go and see movies, at the theater, because, what else are you going to do with your aunt and uncle that you don't really have that much in common with?
Yeah.
We go and see movies, but it's always a struggle trying to go and see a movie. Because whenever we do that, it's like, oh, I want to see this. I want to see Passengers. I want to see Arrival. I want to see Rogue One.
Yeah, any of these.
Whatever movie you're talking about. I want to see it. And they say, oh, no, I don't want to see that. What other movies are playing at that time? So what we almost always end up doing is us going to one movie and them going to another movie. So it's always a struggle to try and get them to see the other non-sci-fi genre movie at the same time. So are they going to see Lion, or are they going to see La La Land or something?
And?
It's so obnoxious. I mean, I just get kind of sick of them because it's like, whenever I try to show them something new or persuade them to watch a movie or ever try something outside of their comfort zone, they're like, no. No. And that's what frustrates me about my aunt and my uncle and our mutual friend that we have not seen in a couple of years.
Yeah, well, let me play devil's advocate. Maybe there's just something that people look for in in escapism and movies and fantasy, and it's not like something depressing or bad or something that'll remind them of something that maybe happened to them. Maybe sometimes people just want to watch a story where like someone just has a great time, like things just go well.
Here's the thing. That's not the kind of movies they watch. I mean, they'll watch movies like Lion and Collateral Beauty and stuff where there's drama, there's problems, there's people doing things and they have issues. But it's just that they're not science fiction, fantasy, action. So it's sort of like a self-defeating argument because they say we don't like stories with conflict, but they watch stories with conflict. It's just that they don't have people punching each other.
Well, yeah. I'm hard-pressed to think of more than just, like two kind of genres that don't really have any kind of plot conflict. Or plot conflict that isn't really poorly just, like, part of a formula and constructed just for the sake of, like, hitting all the beats to make sure it's at least a story. Because I think you genuinely can't just watch 2 hours of someone's life just going really well and there's no problems. I think that's impossible to watch. In fact, I think it would be like an interesting social experiment. Like, let's film and direct a movie where everything goes right for someone and it's 2 hours long and nothing bad happens and they have a great time and everything's happy. And then you show it to people and just see how fucking bored they get. For some people that are crazy people, that's acceptable. But for some people, it's just like, what? How can you enjoy this? How did we even get on this topic of complaining about our friend and then also bad storytelling and then also your aunt and uncle?
I don't know, but I don't care. And I've got one last thing to say that I'm kind of bitter at. Whenever we go and visit my aunt and my uncle, they have one spare bedroom. So, of course, that's where my mom and my dad go sleep. So, yeah. But my brother and I have to sleep in the living room. So, we have to go. We can only go to bed after everybody else is done watching TV. And do you want to know what my aunt's favorite TV channel is?
The cooking channel?
It's worse. HGTV. Home and Garden TV.
No.
So there is nothing in the world that makes me want to commit suicide more than watching home and garden television.
You can put that can be one of those quotes for the demo reel. Someone section out that bit. That's an important one. That'll be there. You know what? When David eventually does kill himself, we'll at least know why.
Mm-hmm.
And we can use this as evidence.
I'm not even kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm not being hyperbolic here. Well, I am being hyperbolic, but that's the point. Whenever I sit there, when they're watching home and garden television, I can't tell them to change the channel because that would be rude. I mean...
Well, yeah, because it's their house.
And even if I told them to change the channel, they probably wouldn't. So it's just like, I just sit there, and I just have this just gnawing feeling of emptiness that just grows.
You start to stare into infinity?
I just start to feel like I would rather be anywhere else, doing anything else, than sitting there watching home and garden TV because, well, it's like if you're eating cardboard.
Yeah,
It's solid.
3 square meals of cardboard.
There's absolutely nothing there. Like, if you're watching the news, you're getting informed. You're learning about things. I mean, that of course the degree of that depends on the news source you're looking in, but you're still learning. When you're watching a program, you're getting involved in the characters and you're being entertained in the story. But when you're watching home and garden TV, you're watching rich white idiots decide what home to buy. Listen, if you're
which 15-bedroom house are we gonna buy, Margaret? Geez, I sure want to be thrifty with my $16 million.
If you're doing well enough to have to decide between a $1.5 million home and a $2 million home, then I don't feel sad about what your life is, and I don't get invested. I don't care. I don't care. And it's so awful. It drives me nuts.
You don't care about these rich, privileged 20-somethings, like, wandering around, like McMansions in Los Angeles going, well, I don't know, Becky's really got her heart set on this one, but I wanted a pool, and this one only has a hot tub. And she's, like, telling me it's the same thing, but it's not the same thing, Becky.
Well, it's not just that, but there's also a bunch of other programs. And I just constantly just go... I just feel like... I feel like I would rather claw out my eyes and stab an ice pick through my ears than listen to any more of this.
Like that scene in Hannibal?
Yeah, like that scene in Hannibal. Killed him. Because at least then I'd have some new sensation. So
nothing helps you see the emptiness of the universe more than the home and garden channel.
Yeah. I mean, you know that scene in Clockwork Orange when they play Disney movies to Malcolm McDowell and water his eyes?
Tied up. Yeah.
They got it wrong. That. You shouldn't be playing Disney movies. You should be playing the Home and Garden Network, because that would make me go crazy sooner than anything else.
Well, David, you shouldn't be giving me this information because one of these days I'm gonna set up a Killing Joke style amusement park of all of your worst fears, and it'll just be you tied up in a roller coaster rolling through a tunnel full of TVs playing different programs from the Home and Garden channel. And then at the very end of it, you'll be trapped in a room with Seth MacFarlane reading off 1,000,001 pornographic knock-knock jokes. And that'll be your hell. And you'll have earned it.
I can't wait.
Anyway, so what have you been doing this week other than, hating things?
Well, I watched an anime.
Oh, you did?
I watched Fate Zero, because, I told you, that's how we got to The Friend, is that I was telling you that I watched Fate Zero, which is, I had a couple of interesting thoughts about it. Fate Zero is sort of like a high fantasy adventure series.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've watched the entire thing, by the way, so I'm glad that of all the anime you can watch, it's this one.
Well, I think my roommate has good taste in anime. Because he tells me to watch One Punch Man and Fate Zero and not Sword Art Online.
One Punch Man's really good. I mean, it might get a little bit overhyped, but, I mean, it's not 2013 anymore. Now it's just, like, back to being just good. You can appreciate it. Anyway, continue your thoughts on Fate Zero. What's it like, man? In your opinion,
it was an interesting example of what was I thinking about? Do bear with me here, but it's an example of cultural appropriation, except the other way around. Because you see it, because it's a Japanese program.
There's a bunch of like
wholesale from Western religion, culture, history, and legend.
Yeah, I mean all of it. Not even just Western. There's even like Egyptian gods in there that get poached. They take it from pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, and that's, I think it's a good example for Western audiences who kind of hear the term and say it, hear the term and kind of laugh at it, so they can understand a little bit more of what it actually is.
Yeah.
Because it's not inherently bad. It's just if you borrow something from culture that's not yours.
Okay. All right. Well, so you think it's a one of the reasons that maybe the stigma should be taken off of the word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Counterpoint. Regardless of what cultures that the show pulls from, or what lores and histories it tries to emulate, I think the show is garbage, and I hate it.
Oh.
And I had a very terrible time watching, what was it, like 26 episodes of it? It's actually probably shorter than that, but it felt like 26 to maybe even 50 episodes.
There's 2 seasons, so 26 sounds like a fairly reasonable number.
I was not invested. I felt like it was okay. So I think that the show really loves like huffing its own farts in terms of its storytelling ability, because it really it has this dense, overcomplicated, like not even that fun to get into lore, and it just keeps getting further into really overcomplicated conversations about it. There's a billion rules for everything. You know, it's not something you can just follow really easily. I
felt like I was watching somebody who animated their D&D game.
Yeah, exactly, right? Where it's because there's a billion characters, all with their own motivations and personalities.
And there's a lot of just talk about, here's what you can do, here's what you do, here's the rules, and here's the power sets. And the most interesting moments of the series were when they stopped talking about that, and they just had the characters have conversations like normal people did.
I felt like maybe like 40% of that show was just standing around explaining the rules of their dumb magic game bullshit. I was so tired of...
It's a D&D game. I swear it is.
I was so tired of all of the exposition about how all of it works. I just wanted to see the characters do something. And then, of course, it was hard to get attached to anyone because there was so many characters. And the closest any of them got to being good was like the one voiced by who's a guy who is also Leon in Resident Evil 6.
Bear in mind, I watched the Japanese dub.
Okay, I watched the English one. Maybe that's the reason it sucked, is because it was in English. I'm kidding, but I couldn't really get attached to any of the characters because it kept switching perspectives, and then sometimes it would forget about them entirely, and you'd spend like 3 episodes not even talking about them, and then, oh, hey, I'm back. Do you remember me, guys? And it's like, oh, hey, you. Who are you again?
It's like a really dense fantasy novel, except that they forgot to do that thing that they did with Lord of the Rings and cut out all the stuff that doesn't matter to the story. I mean, I love the Lord of the Rings books. And there's a lot of great world building and just conversations that they have about stuff
here's
in the
the thing
universe.
about Lord of the Rings, David.
They got rid of that.
Because the goal is really simple. Take the ring, throw it in the volcano, try not to get killed on the way.
Well,
you can
also,
boil it down to something. In
if
this
you've
one,
read the book,
everyone wants the Holy Grail, but they all have different things they want to do with it. There's a billion rules for what they can and cannot do when they get it. A billion rules for what they can and cannot do to get it. It's just so, like, I felt like I needed to have like a study guide to help like watch that show, and that's really annoying. I felt like I needed to be taking notes and have like a notebook of the character's face with their name written next to it, because there was just so much.
You forgot to make your D&D guide.
Yeah,
with your character's power set.
It became, like, impossible to follow, and then every time I thought I had a good idea of what was going on, suddenly they throw more stuff at you and are like, well, hold on, this character can also actually do this, and it's like, well, doesn't that break the rules that were established 2 episodes ago? Yes, but that's because this character is special, and I was like, but you did this same thing last episode. Is every character fucking special and able to break the rules? I don't care. There's a friend of ours who forced me to watch almost the entire thing, and he watches it maybe, like... I swear, I think he's watched it maybe, like, over 40 times now. Like, he has that thing running on a loop, and he's watched it so many times, and every time I try to get him to watch something new, he goes, well, hold on, let me just finish this next round of Fate Zero. And I'm like, you've seen every frame of that show more times than I've seen my favorite movie of all time. Stop. Watch something else. There's other stuff out there.
No, there isn't.
Okay. Boy, this has been a real negative podcast.
Okay, can I have my own little... Never mind. I was gonna have another rant, but I decided to cut it because we've already been ranting enough.
Hold on, I got something. Everyone, go read any Punisher book written by Garth Ennis ever, because those are amazing. And you know what? I read all of the stuff he did for Punisher Max a couple of... I think it was like 2 years ago now. And that was all great. But then it occurred to me that there's like a billion one-off stories he added alongside it that I hadn't checked out yet. So I decided to go back and look at those. And it just occurred to me how much thought he put into the lore of Frank Castle. Like, there's so much... This is a type of lore that I find interesting because it's not super important, and if you miss it, you will not have a hard time following the story. But the Vietnam stuff with Punisher, because in that universe, there's no superheroes, there's no superpowers. There's basically only Punisher is the only really substantially weird thing that populates this version of Earth, right? And it even goes so far as to keep his original origin of him being a Vietnam veteran. Instead of doing the Iron Man thing where they just put him in a different country, they keep updating it. They keep it so he was he was concrete born in like 1950, and he's been and his family gets killed like in like 1976 or something, and he's been the Punisher ever since then. And there's such a really amazing backstory to everything with him in Vietnam. And the reason I got back into it is because I found this first issue of another series. Hold on, let me go look up what the title of it was. Punisher. Cause I looked at it at a certain place. Punisher. It was like one of those like series that's going to be like maybe 5 issues long. It's called Punisher the Platoon. And it's cool because it's kind of like the next evolution of like 3 different stories that Garth Ennis has told. One called Punisher Born, which was like showing the very end of Vietnam and the final days of it, and how like the stuff that happened at Firebase Valley Forge shaped who Frank Castle was and how he'd become like super crazy and evil. While as there was another story just called Valley Forge, which was set in modern day, and it would keep cutting to segments of this fictional book about the downfall of the Firebase and stories from like people who knew Frank Castle back then. And then there's this one, which is called The Platoon, which is where all of those characters interviewed in that book are like together again and telling the story of the beginning of the war. Because basically Valley Forge is the end of it. And they're like, well, how did Punisher... Because he was a badass by the time that started. How do you go from being like, you know, this really kind of meek, normal guy at the age of like 20 to being the most dangerous person to ever walk the surface of the earth in like 4 tours in Vietnam? And so I'm really excited to read that because like I hadn't gotten into a lot of the Vietnam stuff for Punisher, and I think the just absurd amount of detail and research Garth does before writing these stories really helps it to feel real. And yeah, I think the way he portrays the American military and the people in it is really just super believable and well-researched, and it's really cool stuff. So everyone, go check out Punisher The Platoon, as well as Punisher Born and Punisher Max Valley Forge. It's kind of like a unofficial trilogy of stories that fit together really well. So yeah, that's it.
You want to talk a little bit about the New Mutants?
Oh yeah. Well, by the way, I brought up the Punisher because I'm sad that the show got delayed because of the Las Vegas thing.
Well, I mean, it's kind of tasteful. Just do that.
I get it. Like, okay, here's the thing. I know people are very pissed, but the Punisher is a man who gets fed up with society, takes the law into his own hands, gets an automatic weapon, and then goes and kills people he deems worthy of being killed. And while, yes, he kills bad people, and almost all, like maybe 60% of the stories about him are devoted to making sure you know the people he's killing deserve it, but he is like 2 degrees off from a very real and very scary person that you should never idolize. And it's a little bit... I would say it's a little distasteful to put that out at the exact time that it is. I mean, I'm sad because I've been really looking forward to that show, but I get the decision behind it. I'm not defending it as like perfect, but it's just a bit of a touchy subject. So I could see putting it off until maybe early 2017. So because of my Punisher TV Netflix show Blue Balls, I've just been watching I've been reading a bajillion Punisher Garth Ennis comics, which are amazing.
Yeah, whatever, Punisher, cool. You want to talk about the New Mutants now?
Oh yeah.
So I've been doing the research on this because I asked Xavier here, and he knows nothing.
I really don't read a lot of X-Men books or anything related to them.
Yeah, I'm
kind of in the dark.
So I've been doing the research, and from what I hear, if you watch the trailer, I suggest you do it before you listen to this. But if you do, it's a typical horror trailer. I thought that like the editing and like the sound effects were a little bit obnoxious, but I did like the overall sort of vibe or mood that I'm getting from it. It kind of feels like a marriage of what Josh Trank was trying to go for with Fantastic Four or Fanforstic, but wasn't able to, and like what they're doing on Legion. So it feels like sort of a psychological horror thriller sort of thing, with mutant powers in it, and I think that's kind of neat. So of course it stars Anya Taylor-Joy of The Witch, who is basically the next Scream Queen. They got Maisie Williams, Charlie Heaton, and a bunch of other people you don't care about.
Yeah, okay, so real quick, I want to run down some background on our thoughts. You and I like variety in our comic book movies. Okay, because here's my reasoning. Power Pack. Have I told you this before? Like, have I explained this? The reason why I think that like Marvel movies kind of dilute everything into feeling generally the same, even though they're drastically different in the comics. Okay. So, let's say Moon Knight, for example. Moon Knight is a comic about a crazy person who's an ex-mercenary who dresses up as an Egyptian death god and then runs around like carving his logo into the foreheads of criminals and cutting the faces off of bad guys and dealing with his own multiple personality disorder and his like really weak grasp on reality. He can't tell what's real and what he's right. This sounds like a very dark, horrible, bloody, violent story, right? And it's awesome. But then you get something like Power Pack. And Power Pack exists in the same city as Moon Knight. And it's a story about a bunch of 10-year-old, 9-year-old superheroes that go on like fun adventures and solve crimes and fight bad guys, and you know, they goof around with their superpowers because they're like 10. Those things are like completely different ends of the spectrum, but they exist in the same universe because that's how real life is. Some people have very dark and depressing and violent lives. Some people have lives that are kind of lighthearted and fun. You can tell stories of both, and both of them can exist in the same world. I like that variety. That's what's special to me about the Marvel Universe. The reason I have some problems with the Marvel Cinematic Universe lately is because I feel like if Kevin Feige said, all right, we're going to do a Moon Knight movie, and then he greenlit the same year a Power Pack movie, despite how different those comic books are, I feel like the movies would come out in the same year and they would feel more or less the same. They would have a little bit of they would have a fair amount of humor thrown in. They would have very bright and poppy color tones.
Well, no. Only the Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor 3 have bright poppy color tones. The rest of them look like they were filmed in a garage.
Okay, yeah, all right. So maybe they would
slightly washed out colors.
So maybe Moon Knight would look slightly washed out. Maybe at best Power Pack would visually look a little bit poppy. Slightly colorful. But both of them would be filmed more or less in similar looking locations. And they would have the same sense of humor where it's like the bad guy does something bad. Oh no, drama. Music is swelling, orchestral. Everyone's looking scared. And then someone trips and falls down the stairs, but then stands up and is like, all right, I'm ready to fight. And you're like, oh, ha, ha, ha. We added some levity to the situation. That's nice. You should not put that in a Moon Knight book. You should have that all over the place in a Power Pack movie. I think Marvel Cinematic Universe has this horrible thing where in order to keep continuity for the audience, so it doesn't feel like you're watching a billion separate movies. Like, they want you to know it's the same universe.
Well, the other problem is that it's produced by Disney.
Yes.
And Disney is the king of giving consumers exactly what they want to see. Nothing more and nothing less.
So they've kind of, if they know one movie works because of one set of things they did, i.e. Iron Man, or... Well, not even Iron Man. That's a little bit different now. I think
Iron Man was made by Paramount. That was in the pre-Disney era.
I'm thinking Avengers, actually, is the standard. Because Avengers has a lot of Joss Whedon's trademark, can't control himself, must put in a joke every 2 seconds.
Which worked. I mean, it sold the movie. I liked it. It worked in that movie specifically.
It worked in that one specifically, but they keep trying to replicate that feel over and over, and there are times where it's very forced, like, you know, the rug from Aladdin being draped around Doctor Strange's shoulders, basically. That kind of stuff. I hate that stuff. I hate how forced it is. Now, I would like some variety in my superhero movies where maybe one of them can be really dark and fucked up and weird and scary, and then one of them can be really lighthearted and fun. So I'm very, very concerned that everyone hates New Mutants already because it doesn't look like a generic superhero Marvel movie.
Yeah, I felt like there was a lot of negative buzz when it first came out because everybody said, oh, it looks like a generic horror movie. Well, I mean, I blame that on the trailer editing because a lot of trailers are edited very similarly today.
Yes, yeah.
So I don't think that's a problem with the actual movie so much as the marketing campaign. So I think I'm really excited for New Mutants because I like that Fox is willing to take a risk because they tried doing the superhero horror thing before with Fantastic and it utterly failed.
Well, because you and I have both been we've both been kind of interested in that idea of like genre mixing with a superhero story.
Well, I think more people should be okay with it because everybody loves Deadpool, everybody loves Legion. No, everybody loves Legion who's watched it. Everybody loves Logan.
Logan is basically like a western. Deadpool is like a raunchy comedy with
Judd Apatow sex comedy.
I'm a little bit on the fence about that. And then Legion is like this weird psychological thriller that distorts reality. Those are all in the same universe, very all over the place in terms of tone and presentation and filming styles. I like that. Those are all way different from each other, but they exist at the same time. That's cool. And I was really worried because everyone said that New Mutants was going to be like a YA movie, and I should expect like Fault in Our Stars with superpowers.
Well,
that made me want to kill myself.
Well, it's going to be a young adult story in terms of the fact that it's got young adults as the characters.
Well, I mean,
it's about as much of a young adult story as Stranger Things is.
Well, Homecoming is one of those too by that logic.
Yeah,
But it still doesn't feel even like that. It feels like another Marvel movie. Like we
were told it was going to be a John Hughes movie, but we didn't get a John Hughes movie.
We got hints of a John Hughes movie. Basically, it's like it's the same movie over and over in terms of like everything. Filming style, effects, visuals, fight choreography, all of it. Almost identical. It's just you throw in like a tiny little hint of something else to make it not clearly the same movie over and over. So it's like this one will be a little bit like Harry Potter, but this one will be a little bit like Ferris Bueller, but this one will be a little bit like what was it? A good heist movie. Ocean's 13. Yeah. So. Yeah, I like drastically different superhero stories.
So I'd say that this is why my favorite MCU movies, aside from the Avengers, because the Avengers will always have a special place in my heart, is Captain America 2 and the Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, because they're the most unique.
Those are, even though they came out generally at the same time, those are on way different ends of the spectrum in terms of content. There's not a lot of funny haha moments in Winter Soldier. Like maybe at the beginning when Sam Wilson and Cap are being like buddies. But like I don't remember there being any slapstick comedy when, Nick Fury gets shot in the gut. Or Captain America has to fight his ex-best friend while he's getting his face smashed in repeatedly.
Yeah.
Or
I think that
all those people dying everywhere.
So with that sort of extended thing, that's why I think New Mutants is going to be pretty cool because it's the most distinct of the upcoming superhero crop. I mean, we've got Thor 3, which I'm imagining is going to be the best at actually being a good comedy because you've got Taika Waititi doing it, and he's great at comedy.
I love What We Do in the Shadows. It's a great movie.
But What We Do in the Shadows is amazing. So I think that's going to be a good comedy, but I think that in terms of something that's drastically different, a superhero horror movie is going to be neat.
Yeah.
And
because
then,
we've been waiting for that.
Out?
You and I mean, when I say we, not the general audiences, I mean you and I, we wanted the original Fantastic Four 2015 thing. We wanted it to be good because while I don't necessarily agree with taking a very lighthearted story and turning it into a fucking Cronenberg film, I think that at least the execution could have been cool, and then we didn't even get that.
So we're getting 3 X-Men movies next year. We're going to get New Mutants, Deadpool 2, and X-Men Dark Phoenix. I'm excited for New Mutants. I am not excited for Deadpool 2, and I am ironically excited for X-Men Dark Phoenix, because Deadpool 2 is just going to be more of what Deadpool 1 was, which means good action scenes and intolerable comedy. And X-Men Dark Phoenix is going to be bad. It is going to be bad.
I feel like the ideal Deadpool
X-Men Dark
movie
Phoenix
would make
is being
people
written
cry.
and directed by Simon Kinberg, who also wrote X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah. I'm not excited for.
And of course, it's got a cast, including but not limited to James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult, Ty Sheridan, Sophie Turner, Alexandra Shipp, Cody Smith-McPhee, Evan Peters, Jessica Chastain, Olivia Munn, Daniel Cudmore, and Lamar Johnson.
So that one's gonna take they kind of shot themselves in the foot by having all of the X-Men movies take place in real time. So that means that now, unless they want to recast all the characters again, they have to set all of the future X-Men movies in this franchise in, the mid-'80s up until maybe the early '90s.
So far, what I hear is that New Mutants is going to take in present time. So it's going to... So basically, it's going to be like a haunted house story where these 5 mutants, Ilyana, Rasputin, Magic, Wolfsbane, Cannonball, Sunspot, and Mirage...
Oh, Colossus's sister.
Yeah, Colossus's sister are going to be in this hospital/asylum for mutants, and they're going to be taken care of by Cecilia Reyes, who is another mutant, but she's like a doctor who can use force fields, and she just likes to protect people and help people. Huh. So it's sort of like her. I'm imagining, I'm not 100% sure, that it's going to be like a small little own, or her little own sort of private school.
She started her own X-Men
X-Man
or Charles Xavier's
school, except that she specializes in dangerous mutants. And then
one of them is Sunspot, and Sunspot blows up everything.
Mm-hmm. And the way I hear it is that it's going to be based on the Demon Bear saga. I haven't read that, but I read elements of it. I sort of read the first 5 pages of it, and it involves Moonstar/Mirage being haunted by this weird presence, and it's sort of like a haunted house story with mutants. So Demon Bear is a fictional villain. Blah blah blah.
I wonder if it's gonna have anything to do with Shadow King.
The Demon Bear haunts the dreams of Daniel Moonstar. Let's see.
I think you should just read it, dude. Read the comic and then come back to me and tell me if it was good.
Yeah, it haunts her dreams.
Okay,
is the
that
idea.
Probably would explain a lot of the really weird faces pushing through the walls, Frighteners symbolism, or not symbolism, just imagery.
He draws power from negative human emotions, and he can teleport. He has a lot of strength, and he likes to corrupt human souls. So it's sort of like a mutant supernatural force, and I think it's kind of neat to have that sort of different. So it's mutants being held in a secret facility against their will to try and save themselves.
Huh. And now I've heard someone on Twitter, I think, say that New Mutants as a series starts out kind of dark and weird and horror-ish, but then as time goes on, it slowly develops into being the hopeful, bright tone of the original X books. So maybe that's what they're going for with this one, is that this movie is going to start out as a horror movie, except the characters have superpowers, which is weird enough on its own. And then develop into something a little bit more hopeful and superhero-y. Yeah. Which, that sounds almost like an exact description of Fantastic Four.
Except that this time Josh Trank isn't directing it.
Josh Trank isn't there to have his dogs tear up people's stuff and then not pay for it.
Yeah. That was a story from behind the scenes where Josh Trank was shooting on location in somebody's house for Fan Four Stick, and he brought his 4 dogs along with him to the set. Of course, that's really unprofessional to do because you're directing a movie. So why are your dogs even there?
What if they just start running around knocking over light posts and
you
bumping into the sound guy or some
but
shit?
When I'm going to class, I don't bring any dogs with me. I don't have any. But Do you go to class with your pug?
Yeah, all the time. Just like, he'll be totally quiet, not disturb the flow of the classes or anything.
Exactly. It's very unprofessional. And then his dogs scraped up the floor of the house that they were shooting in. And then that caused thousands of dollars of damage. And the homeowners are like, "Hey, 20th Century Fox, you damaged my house. Pay for it." And then 20th Century Fox said, "We didn't do it. It's not our dogs. He brought his." So I don't know who paid for it. I think 20th Century Fox paid for it. But of course, I don't think they're very pleased with Josh Trank after that.
Well, that was before he just started like flat out
not answering their calls.
Yeah, like he was like hiding from the executives.
Producers.
And they're like, "Hey, how's the movie going?" And he's like,
He didn't answer the calls. It was
throw a smoke pellet on the ground.
Very unprofessional. And that's not Josh Boone, because, I mean, Josh Boone's made 2 movies so far, Fault in Our Stars being one of them, but he's a little bit more professional than that.
Yeah, I don't imagine the New Mutants guy is going to be
okay, Josh Boone has only made 2 romantic comedies so far, but I think he really wants to do horror, though. Because for a while he was going to make Stephen King's The Stand, but that kind of fell apart. He also wanted to work on a Vampire Lestat, which fell apart. And then he's also been signed to work on I think the Stand might still be they might revive that at Warner Brothers after it. And then he's also gotten a deal
Stephen King's a hot property right now.
Stephen King's Revival. And I think he really wants to work on horror. So I think this is what his direction as a filmmaker he wants to go in.
Now, unless you're like a douchebag like Josh Trank who's super full of himself, I think your goal for a movie like this would be to do something cool and not screw it up and piss off the people that gave you all this money to make a movie for them. Like, Tim Miller is a class act, and I know he won't be on Deadpool 2, but I think his directorial debut was pretty solid, and I'm looking forward to whatever else that guy works on, including Terminator.
He's been signed to he's been signed to direct the Terminator, as well as let's see, let me see if this is true.
Was it a Star Wars thing? I feel like it was some other big name property.
Artemis. Oh. It is it's the second novel from the author of what's the book? Matt
Ender's
Damon
Game?
on Mars.
Oh, The Martian.
The Martian. That guy, the second book from the author of The Martian, he's been signed to direct the novel from that guy, which is sort of like a sci-fi whodunit. No, it's a sci-fi like heist movie on the moon. And then he's also been assigned to direct the Terminator reboot with the blessing of James Cameron.
Didn't the last one get the blessing of James Cameron?
Very reluctantly, because here's the thing:
did they pay him like $50 to say it was good in one interview?
He didn't have the rights, so they made the movie without him, and they just put his name on it to improve it. But James Cameron, the rights reverted to him.
Because Genesis was a colossal failure of epic proportions in every sense of the word.
So he decided. So then he got the rights back. So now this is his baby.
I kind of like when like the people who create these really iconic series get to keep it and then take it in the directions they want to. Because
so the story treatment was written by James Cameron, and he's probably gonna co-write the script, or at least he's gonna get a story credit.
Cool.
And then it's going to be directed by Tim Miller, and of course, Linda Hamilton is.
That's the big selling point for me, because like I can't believe you had probably one of the top best female protagonists in a movie of all time, and then we're just like, we'll just cut her out, let's just have it be the Terminator and John Connor. Like, John Connor is not a very interesting character. Here's the thing about John Connor. He is a concept more than he is a character. You cannot show adult age John Connor and have him live up to the hype, because he is supposedly like the post-apocalyptic robot killing messiah, and everyone would follow him into the abyss because he is such a cool dude. it is so hard to make that character. So if you show him as like a punk-ass teenager before he gets there, that's believable. That's cool. You can work with that. You cannot show us Christian Bale gargling nails and yelling at cyborg people and tell us, yeah, everyone's gonna follow that guy. Like, yeah, I don't know. He just seems like a dude.
Yeah, the rights revert to James Cameron in 2019, but before then he had a bunch of it was juggled between different companies, and then Skydance eventually got their hands on it.
Okay, now I don't know. I'm excited for Linda Hamilton to return because like Sarah Connor she was essentially the main character of this franchise, and it was kind of bullshit to kick her out. Could you imagine if Ripley just like died off screen between Alien 2 and 3, and then they had some guy named Jeff be the main character of Aliens 3 and 4, and then
or if they just
partially
keep
5.
trying to press on us increasingly Xeroxed copies of her.
Yeah, right. So oh yeah, well that's true. I mean, I don't know. I thought the
first we
character
got Numi
from
Rapace,
I thought she was fine.
She was fine. She did her own thing, but of course, Linda Hamilton's shadow was still all over her performance. And then we got Catherine Waterston, who I love. Catherine Waterston. She's a really great actress.
Sigourney Weaver? Because we're talking about
really
Alien
good.
right now.
She was really good in Fantastic Beasts, but she just didn't. It's just unfortunate.
Are we talking about Alien right now?
Yeah, I was talking about Catherine Waterston in Alien Covenant.
A second ago, you said Linda Hamilton instead of Sigourney Weaver. Wait!
Sorry.
Hold on. Could you imagine...
I'm just as tired as you are.
A movie where Linda Hamilton and Sigourney Weaver are together as buddies. It could be like a Girl Expendables. And that's a very depressing commentary on female representation in action films. Because there's like only 2 I can think of. You can have Michelle Rodriguez there, and she can play the same character.
But not last one.
Okay, let's name another like memorable female action hero character.
Mia Jovovich.
That's true. That's very true.
I would say Jennifer Lawrence because of the Hunger Games.
No, I'm not gonna give you that one. Who's the lady in all those Underworld movies?
Kate Beckinsale?
Yeah. You could give her one. She could be a character. Okay, so we got the
I'd give Cara Delevingne, the newcomer. Like in the Expendable movies, they always have the one person who's the newcomer, who's like from the next generation. So I'd give Cara Delevingne that spot.
What has she been in recently?
Valerian, remember? Well, there's Scarlett Johansson as well.
Honestly,
a lot of people want a Black Widow movie, so that would be good.
Maybe Angelina Jolie, even though I'm not a big fan of hers, nor do I really I don't think I've even watched many of her action movies, but she was in a lot of them.
I think that it's kind of I think it's also a commentary that when we talk about the best movies that any particular what is it? When we're talking about the action movies, all the action movie classics that we get from the man, we get all these epic, these important movies that everybody's seen and everybody knows what it is. And we're talking about the female ones. We're going to the star of Resident Evil and Lara Croft Tomb Raider.
Yeah, I mean we got Aliens and we got Aliens and we got Terminator. Those are some very important movies. There's got to be an example that we're forgetting. Someone's going, man, you guys are idiots. I can't believe you forgot what's her name in cool 80s movie that was action themed. I don't know. Hey, by the way, I watched Cult of Chucky the other day.
I don't care.
Oh. So I'm a really big fan of the Child's Play series, and I think it's kind of cool that the original creator...
You're forgetting Uma Thurman in the Kill Bills and all that.
There you go. That's it. That was one I was thinking of. I was thinking there was something that wasn't quite as gun heavy. There had to be My brain didn't cross over into martial arts yet. But yeah, I liked Cult of Chucky. I know a lot of people are kind of on the fence about it.
I'm not a big Chucky fan.
I was very confused by some of the complaints about this one. Because, like, sure, it ended on a cliffhanger that I thought was really obnoxious. But people said, man, the SJW bullshit sure ruined that one. And I was, like, confused because I have no idea what they were talking. Like, you know me. I'm not particularly fond of people who label themselves as such 3 letters. But I could not for the life of me find what in the movie they were talking about. Other than the fact that, like, there's a female protagonist. There's spoilers for the movie cut to like 2 minutes from now. Chucky possesses the main character girl and then takes over her body and then leaves, and it's implied that she will be the villain of the next one with Chucky's soul possessing her. That doesn't strike me as SJW bullshit, because I was like in there for like 5 minutes, and that was like, I don't understand what kind of like social justice point they would be making there. I'm very confused. Why don't people like Cult of Chucky? Like, what's bad about it? Other than that, which isn't even like a really solid argument.
I'm just not a big fan of killer doll movies.
I'll have you know that Annabelle has nothing on Chucky. Nothing.
I ship them. I ship it.
No, Jennifer Tilly, and also a character that is played by Jennifer Tilly but is not Jennifer Tilly, are the ones for Chucky. By the way, that got real confusing. I'm glad that it got back to being more or less a horror story now, because I was not happy with those 2 comedy movies they decided to do. Like, Bride of Chucky is all right, but like Seed of Chucky is just a garbage movie. Don't watch it.
Anyway, I don't think that anybody on my channel actually really watches.
There's like one person I know of. Hi, Wabiel. However you pronounce your name. Hi. How you doing?
I think you're... Well, yeah, the other one that you're forgetting, I'm not sure if this one technically counts, but I'd count it as Gina Carano for being in Deadpool.
Yeah,
she was
maybe.
Angel Dust.
I guess.
She was also in Fast and Furious.
Okay, all right. I'll give you that. Wait.
Anyway,
maybe Zoe Saldana, just because she's been in a lot of action.
I would count Zoe Saldana because, first of all, Avatar is the highest-grossing movie of all time, like it or not. Second of all, everybody loves Guardians of the Galaxy, and of course Star Trek.
Plus, she's been in like there was a really generic like revenge movie, like they killed my husband, so now I have to go after them. And she was like a lady. She was basically Lady Punisher in that.
I don't know what you're talking about because I don't watch bad movies. Unless they're hilariously bad, in which case I love them.
Okay.
So yeah, Can't wait for Fault in Our Stars 2.
Oh, God. Wait, what? That's a thing?
No, that's not a thing.
Okay, alright, you're just being silly. Because I was like, I thought they all died! What, did the cancer go away?
The main character of Fault in Our Stars 2, the cancer.
Well, now it's time they heard it from my story. I didn't want to kill these 2 teenagers, but I had to in order to bring them together. This is the story of cancer.
Well,
true hero of The Fault in Our Stars.
John Green is making a new novel called Turtles All the Way Down.
Oh man, every novel John Green writes is about cancer.
The story centers around a 16-year-old Asa Holmes, a high school student living with obsessive-compulsive disorder.
Oh, jeez. People don't understand me because I'm OCD, but, like, I can only imagine the 15 paragraphs in the opening chapter about how having OCD is the worst thing and people don't get me. So
speaking about this novel, Green stated, "This is my first attempt to write directly about the kind of mental illness that has affected my life since childhood. So while the story is fictional, it is also quite personal."
It's gonna be for the people who have OCD, and they're gonna be like, "This isn't what it's like at all," and then complain about it on the internet.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait until they make it into a movie.
You know, there is a sort of take on that I appreciate. There's this book I've been reading called Postal, from I think it's Top Cow and Image Comics, and yeah, it's pretty good because like it's interesting because the main character has like Asperger's, I think, and he has like basically zero social. Yeah, but he has like basically zero social skills, but he is like kind of a genius, and it's kind of interesting seeing the way he like looks at the world, because I mean it's just an interesting character because he has such a unique and weird perspective of tiny things, like the way he describes music, or the way he talks about how it's easy to focus when he's drawing or something. And I think that's cool because that represents it in a non-negative way. Granted, the other characters in the book are assholes to him, but he doesn't really care, and he's still kind of a badass in spite of it. Like, he runs around being like this super... he starts off being kind of like feeble and lame and getting his ass kicked a lot, but it's sort of a story of him becoming a badass in spite of it. And yeah, it's just really interesting premise because it's this town. It's this town that's like hidden somewhere in the U.S. and like kind of tries to stay off the radar. But basically, it's like a haven for criminals, and if you go there, they'll give you a new name and identity, and you can stay there and like kind of hide from the cops. But the place is just so good at covering its tracks that the mayor, like, who's the main character's mom, has basically covered every possible route to tie crime back to them. And then like it's just this tightly knit program, and the main character is the mailman, and he has to read everyone's mail, so he kind of like knows everyone in the town's secrets. And then a murder happens, and then it's like, we're now on the radar. There's like an actual murder that's been logged as happening in this town, and people are suspects. So the government is starting to look at them, and now like they're trying to think that the main character, the postman, is a weak link because he might be able to help them get some dirt on his mom, the evil mayor. And yeah, it's really cool, really bizarre, a little bit of violence, very interesting take on a main character just because he's so non-standard. And yeah, I like it. My friend actually drew a couple of pages for it for like this talent hunt thing they were doing, because he's a comic artist. It's my buddy Dane, and they were like looking for someone to potentially, take over as an artist. So they had him draw a couple of pages from the script of like the 9th issue or something, and he sent me those, and they looked so good that I was like, all right, you're gonna be the artist on this new comic I'm working on. So. He didn't get the job with Top Cow, but he got the job with me.
Which is obviously an improvement.
Oh, absolutely. Cause, yeah. God, I hope my comic book gets published. That would be great.
It would be.
Alright, how long have we been going there, buddy?
A little bit over an hour.
I think that's about a good podcast, huh? We covered a lot of topics. We complained about our friends.
Another
Compast.
Okay, and I think let's talk a little bit about other stuff. So the question is, we streamed the last one because last week we didn't have one because you were supposed to upload it but you didn't, and then I think it'll probably be like the 21st, I think, when we're going to be streaming again, probably, and that's going to be on Xavier's channel, hopefully.
Yes. I'm still trying to figure out OBS. Like, I keep putting off finally getting all the settings in the right place just because it's kind of a pain in the ass and there's so much to worry about. So I've been putting it off a lot, and yeah.
But if worst comes to worst, then we're just going to be doing it on my channel.
Because you got your shit together.
I don't, but I have it together enough.
He has it slightly stapled together, while his mine is just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
All over the place.
Is this like a paper or metaphor for like papers from school or like what?
Are you complaining about my room being messy?
Your room is messy.
Yeah, well, my mind is messy, sir.
Mine is too.
Okay. But is your room messy?
It's a little bit untidy, but compared to other people in my dorm, my room is very clean.
Oh, okay. There's not a bunch of bongs and like dead animals in there, so, you know.
Hey, did you know that somebody actually stole somebody else's hookah in my dorm? Yeah, this will be a fun story to end on. This is kind of amusing.
Okay.
So,
I'm down.
So, we've been getting emails over the past few weeks of people stealing things.
Yeah.
Like cigarettes and the hookah and all that. But another thing that they did is that they printed out pieces of paper, like anti-smoking ads. Like they put one on the door that said, "Batman doesn't smoke, nor should you," or "If you smoke, then you're more likely to get drugs. You're more likely to get addicted to drugs."
Yeah.
So there's that sort of. So there are some secret people in my dorm who are secretly performing campaigning against other people who like to smoke. Because, for example, a lot of people in my dorm like to smoke on pipes, and they'll go outside in front of there's an outdoor fireplace out back, and they'll just sit around the fireplace and smoke. And it's the most gross thing. I hate smoking. I'm sorry if you smoke, but I hate smoking. And
yeah,
so there's that campaign. Those people are doing that.
I can put up with it to a certain degree, but I don't think I could, like... I don't know, after having done it once, I don't think I could date another girl who smokes just because it's just like always on them, the smell of it. Like, I hate it. It just,
yeah.
You start tasting it.
I mean, smoking cigarettes are awful, and pot smells even worse.
Oh, yeah, I hate the smell of
I know
pot.
because I went to a concert at Red Rocks Amphitheater, so it just sort of wafted over me.
The smell of pot has kind of stayed with me my whole life, and my garage has always smelled like that.
Mm-hmm.
For reasons, and I hate it. I can't get over it. Some people try to like describe to me why I'm wrong for disliking it. It's disgusting.
It is.
I apologize if you smoke copious amounts of pot.
Then,
I just can't
of
get
course,
into it, man.
I've got a part 2 of the story.
Oh, okay.
So, the people who were smoking struck back. So the other day, or like a few weeks ago, I saw people put up pro-smoking posters.
Ah,
like they found like old ads from back in the day, where it's like, oh, this cigarette tastes good and it smells all that stuff, and it's healthy and all that.
Fred Flintstone just token up.
Yep. So there's that. And then they struck back again because they pulled all those posters down. And there's one of them that's in like the stairway because I'm on the top floor of my dorm, and they put it up. And the people who put up the pro smoking poster put it really far out, so it's still up there. But you can see scratched on it says, instead of "it's good for you," it says "causes cancer." So it's wonderful.
I hope the smoke wars end with like just flat out people running around like just like hitting each other with anti-smoking signs.
Mm-hmm.
Like on a
like sometimes college
on a picket sign.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be great.
Sometimes I feel homesick and I wish I could go back to high school and I feel nostalgic. But then other times I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I'm not in high school anymore, because we've got TVs in our dorm as well. So of course there were other people who there are people who like to play like Call of Duty Zombies or watch Game of Thrones down there, and then other people got pissed and complained about it. And then they asked, like, could you stop that? Could you stop doing that? And then we got the official response from the people who run the dorm. And do you want to know what they said?
What?
They said, If you don't like it, just don't watch it.
Okay, that doesn't. All right.
That's kind of like the reasonable thing to do. It's like, you're responsible for watching what you want and not watching what you don't want to watch. So just because you don't like what other people are doing doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to do it. Because, like, if we had a TV in our senior lounge in high school, and if we had watched Game of Thrones, they would have gotten rid of the TV. I mean, they got rid of the TV
absolutely.
anyway.
They would have kicked that. They would have thrown that over the fucking balcony.
Yeah, and they got rid of the. I mean, they got rid of the TV anyway because we had terrible grades.
Oh yeah, everyone in the senior class of our high school had like a D or an F, and
like
they were
30%.
like, "We'll once that number reduces back below 10%, we'll give the TV back." And we never got the TV back.
And also, and then because our high school went on a semester system. They gave it back to us on second semester, and then they pulled it away again. And the way I hear it this year, they don't even have the TV in the senior lounge anymore.
This is bullshit, man. You spend 3 years getting like treated like garbage for being an underclassman, and then when you finally get to be the senior, the only thing that really gives you an edge and makes you seem like you're better than everyone else, they take that away. So it's like, well, shit, we just got made fun of for not having a TV to watch at lunch for 3 years. And then when we finally get our turn, they take away the TV. So it's like, what reason is there to have hyped up being a fucking senior for all this time? Like, it's we don't get any of the perks. It's just the same as being a 9th grader. You just get to sit in a spot that's slightly different. Fuck high school.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to be out of the American high school education system because the amount of hand-holding that goes on is there to such an excessive degree that you can't really do anything. It's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean,
don't go to school, kids. Just do a bunch of drugs and then just go into a life of crime. And if not, go to the military and then come back and then fight the people who went to the life of crime. And we'll do like... How come there's never been like a real life Punisher? Like just
because people are decent, and also the police would be good enough to catch that person before they kill a bunch of people.
I don't know about that. I would say maybe in the days after. I could see someone with a lot of military training probably gunning down like, I don't know, a bunch of criminals. God willing, they don't get killed by the mafiosos, and then the cops would find them like 2 days later, and then arrest them.
I mean, the reality is that people aren't smart enough to get away with crimes most of the time.
And yeah, you gotta be like really careful. You gotta make sure everything is untraceable. You gotta make sure that you don't have like a stable spot that you're living in forever, just because they'll be able to get you there. You gotta have like. You basically can't leave any kind of paper trail. You gotta have like everything paid for with cash. I guess that's what's like Punisher's superpower is just that he's absurdly competent at not getting arrested. That's it. Other than being good at killing people, he's just really good at not getting arrested, and even then, he gets arrested a lot.
Which is, to be fair, is actually a pretty impressive achievement.
Well, still, sometimes he ends up going to prison, and then all he does is just kill criminals in there, and they're like, well, we can't keep him in here! And then he just escapes again. Sometimes he willingly go. I read a Punisher story today called Punisher the Cell, where the crime boss is specifically responsible for his family's deaths. We're all sharing a cell in a prison, and they like own the place because they had bribed all the guards, and they like had their own like economy going on, and they were having money and like prostitutes and whatever shipped in and out. Like it was basically like staying at a hotel that had like shitty food, right? So he intentionally turns himself in, gets arrested, goes through the court system, goes to this prison, and then just spends like 3 days dismantling everyone in there who was part of this criminal empire, and then goes into a room and then just kills them all at once while vividly describing what happened to his kids, and then he just breaks out, and it's great. I think I'm fascinated by stories of people breaking out of prison a lot. There's not enough of those. There's one TV show, and there's that Sylvester Stallone movie, but that one was a little bit
They're
on
making
like...
a sequel to that.
Is it still going to have Stallone?
Yeah.
Is Arnold Schwarzenegger coming back?
I presume so.
Cool! I'm on board.
Apparently it did terribly in the United States, but it did really well in China. So now a Chinese company is co-producing the sequel.
I hope that happens to Blade Runner.
Okay, look. I know we were supposed to be ending, but that brings up a rant that I have about Blade Runner.
Oh.
I have a rant, okay?
Is it that Blade Runner deserves more money?
No. I have a rant about people who haven't seen it. You see, here's the thing. Not a lot of people are seeing Blade Runner. Like, I mean, it's opening about on par with Mad Max Fury Road, which everybody loves. But, I mean, I saw Mad Max in theaters. I haven't seen Blade Runner in the middle of theaters because I am super busy. We're in the middle of midterms, so yeah. But at least I have an excuse. A lot of people are just there's a lot of people out there who complain about, like, I'm specifically talking about my own family, but other people as well. There are a lot of people who complain about being not enough original movies. And there's so many sequels and all this stuff. Oh, look. Oh, Hollywood again. Can't they create something new or original? Can't you do that?
Well,
here's the thing. They are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of creative people in Hollywood doing a lot of interesting, new, different ideas. But when they do, chances are people don't go and see them.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about Hollywood is that it is a business. Hollywood will make what you tell them you want to see. So if you go and see Marvel's Infinity War Avengers 2.5,
when you go see MCU movie number 19,
you're telling them that you want more MCU superhero movies.
Yes.
So what are you going to get? You're going to get more MCU superhero movies.
And then when you complain that you're getting more of those, it's like, well, fuck you. It's your fault for seeing this last 6 of them.
Complaining on the internet doesn't matter to the bottom line of a publicly traded multimedia conglomerate. If you want
the DC Extended Universe to fail, stop seeing the movies. Just stop it. I'm not saying this I'm saying you should do this. I actually am kind of excited for Justice League, and I didn't mind Batman v Superman that much. Suicide Squad is garbage though.
I'm just saying that maybe if you're complaining about these superhero movies that are so uncreative and everything, maybe you should just stop.
Just don't go to them?
And stop complaining and realize that Hollywood is going to make what you see. So it's your fault that we're getting Fast and Furious 9. It's our fault as moviegoers that we got through Transformers 5 and we're going to get a Bumblebee spinoff. It's our fault as moviegoers for sending the signals to the producers that this is what we want. So the only way that this is going to get better is if us as moviegoers go out and see the type of movies that you say you want more of.
So if someone comes out with like underdog, low budget, this is my first movie.
Maybe go and see Valerian, even if it's not a perfect movie, because you think you want to see more stuff different.
Yeah.
I mean, I did.
Let's say, okay, here's a good example. John Wick. That is not based on anything. It's just a movie. It's a movie that someone came out with, and everyone watched John Wick 1, even though there's no reason to think that it would be good. But they watched it. There was no brand security. They were just like, well, it's a gamble, but hopefully... And they liked it. And now they're making...
John Wick 2, John Wick 3, Atomic Blonde...
Now they're making more movies like that. If you go see a random movie that is just completely out of nowhere, it's not based on anything, you don't even know if it's going to be good, just give it a chance, and don't... Because here's something I said once that I think kind of pisses me off, that I said. I think you asked me which I would see between Valerian and Guardians 2, and I said... Well, I already know that Guardians 2 is probably going to be like the first one, and I liked the first one. So that means I'm going to be safe. I'll get some security. I'll know that it's going to be something that I won't have wasted my afternoon and money on, right? I ended up seeing both of those movies. I actually liked both of them. They were very creative, very cool. But I should never have just thought, well, I'll go to the one that I already know will be good, because it's part 14 in a series. Don't just watch movies, man. Just watch them. Sometimes they'll be good, sometimes they'll be bad. I know sometimes some people are like, well, I understand the argument that I don't have enough money to go see every movie that comes out. I want to make sure I'm not getting ripped off. I get that, yeah. I don't really have a
You don't have to see every movie out there. Just maybe when you do, try something new.
Yeah. When you do, just give some consideration to the little guy, you know? It might not always pan out, but sometimes it might.
I think we've got our theme for this episode is trying something new. First, we ranted about our anime friend and my aunt not wanting to try something new, and how absolutely obnoxious that is.
And how New Mutants, we want to try something new because it doesn't look like a superhero movie that much.
And now we're talking about how us as moviegoers are really the people responsible for the remakes and the sequels and all that stuff that's happening today. It's our fault.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And that's an unfortunate truth, but yeah.
It's an unfortunate truth, but that's the reality, is that Hollywood producers don't go out and buy the tickets for their movies. We do.
And if you keep buying tickets for movies that you know you're going to hate, like Transformers, it's like, well, yeah. Look, so there's a thing. Stop going to movies that you know you're going to like no matter what, because you're killing off creativity. Because you're just going to keep getting more of those series. You're going to get a billion more Marvel movies, a billion more DC movies, a billion more Transformers, and then, you know, you'll never get Atomic Blonde 2, even if you like that movie. Just consider watching something a little bit out of your comfort zone, because you might surprise yourself, you might find something cool. And if you have a movie series that you know for a fact that you hate, stop buying tickets for it, so that more of them keep getting made.
I'm guilty of this too. I saw Pirates of the Caribbean 5. Now, granted, my family wanted to see it, and I was just sort of dragged along, but I did see it, and I'm still bitter about that.
Here's the thing that makes me mad, is that I saw 4 Transformers movies on opening night. I didn't see
any of them on opening night.
Because I kept thinking, well, the first one was alright, and the second one was bad, and then the third one was, like, basically just 2 hours of loud noises. Maybe this fourth one will be okay.
Wait, there was a third one? What happened in the third one?
Well, Spock was in it, and there was a ship that crashed on the moon, and on it there was a guy named Ultra Magnus, I think, and he was voiced by Leonard Nimoy, and he wanted to help transport the Decepticons to Earth with some teleportation things, and then he tried to teleport the entirety of Cybertron to Earth, even though that would destroy our atmosphere and kill everyone. And then Optimus was like, "No way, bitch," and then killed his ass, and then he's like, "Optimus, please show mercy," and then he said, "No!" and then blew off his head. And then Optimus Prime killed the Fallen, and then he ripped his face off through a hole in his chest, screaming, "Give me your face!" And then he was begging for his life, going, "No, Optimus!" And
wait, aren't the Fallen the villain in the second one?
No, I know. I just brought that up because I love how much of a crazy person, like, Optimus Prime is kind of it's hard to promote him as like the heroic hero guy in those movies, because he's kind of showed off as being more of a Punisher type. For all of the heroic speeches about like saving, you know, the humans and their right to exist, He sure does, like, run around just brutally slaughtering his own kind a lot, even when they're begging for their lives. And then he does, like, really fucked up, like, evil things, like tear off their faces and like, stomp their chests open. And Optimus Prime is my favorite anti-hero. But anyway, and then Shia LaBeouf falls out a window that's, like, 500 stories up. And then I think he holds on to a grappling hook that's attached to Starscream's eyeball. And then Starscream flies around all over the place going, "Ow, my eye!" And for some reason, Shia LaBeouf is not killed by this. And then Bumblebee shows up. And then...
stuff happens.
This is seriously all I remember. I went to every single thing I remembered from Transformers 3. Oh, wait. Megan Fox wasn't in it, and they had some...
An even more forgettable love interest.
They had a lingerie model show up and be the love interest. And, yeah. Don't watch Transformers movies, kids.
Don't. Just stop. I refuse to give my money to Bumblebee, the solo movie.
But he's gonna be a Volkswagen Beetle this time. Isn't that way better?
I don't care. I'm not going to see it.
He's gonna be a Volkswagen Beetle. He's gonna look
so
like
wait,
how
if
he
he's
did
gonna
in
be
the
a Volkswagen
cartoon.
Beetle, is he gonna be mass produced in Nazi Germany?
Yes.
I want a Captain America style solo movie for Bumblebee, like an origin movie set in World War II.
Well, based on what happened in the newest one, he was in World War II. That could totally be a thing. There was a flashback in Transformers 5, whatever the title was, where they're like, "Yeah, I remember Bumblebee in World War II," and it just cuts to him running around, like, just shooting Nazis and smashing them with a giant yellow hammer and like taking gunfire like it was like mosquito bites, and it was just crazy. He was the fucking big yellow and black angel of death that makes bleep bloop noises.
So he's like R2-D2.
He's like R2-D2, but if R2-D2 was Satan.
R2-D2 is Satan.
He communicates through a series of clicks and bleeps and bloops and asks you for your eternal soul.
Yeah. How did you not notice this in Star Wars? How did you not notice that R2-D2 is Satan?
He was behind it all. In fact, he was actually... You see, Palpatine was just a figurehead. People like to claim Jar Jar was behind it all. It's actually R2, because he was there from the very beginning. Notice he was in every single movie. It's almost like he was the one that was pulling the strings all along.
With his gay lover, C-3PO.
Yes. Well,
I ship it.
Okay. You could write another fanfic about it that will read on that fucking live podcast.
Well, technically, robots don't have any genders, so it would be an asexual love story.
Or it could be a lesbian, or it could be straight. It could be whatever you want it to be.
They're robosexuals, not homosexuals.
David's a robosexual. I like that the meme that you're a robot is continued to be propagated in my Discord server and on Twitter. People keep asking you if you're a robot now. I don't even know how that got started. I think that was just some throwaway joke I made like 4 weeks ago, and people are still doing it.
Well, I mean, I'm not exactly discouraging it by not being as crazily excitable as everybody else is. It's just kind of easy to say that I'm a robot when I'm not as excited for Spider-Man PS4 as everybody else is.
Oh, everyone, you hear that? You know what this robot is powered by? He's powered...
Your tears.
He's powered by something called NaCl.
That's a good joke.
Yeah. Anyway,
that was solid. I'll give you that one.
All right. So we'll see you around for next week, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
Had a great time.
Goodbye.
Bye.